Hello and good morning. So what we have here is the survey and mapping of submerged aircraft surrounding the Roi Namur Atoll in the Marshall Islands. This is for the grant proposal and my archaeology class. So right here we have the Roi Namur Atoll. An atoll is essentially a piece of coral or a reef, essentially, that has risen from the seafloor above the surface of the water and become an island. This is comparable to the Hawaiian island chains. And, you know, they were volcanic, but with the atolls in the South Pacific, it is usually the result of a rising reef. So here we see this is the Roi Namur, that little island system here, the atoll system, and as you can see in the bottom there, that is a map of the South Pacific. So you can see where the Greater Marshall Islands reside on the globe, which coming up will be it'll be quite significant in our discussion on why a survey and mapping of this atoll or off the coast of this atoll is very important to the historical record. So the significance of this, in 1942, 6 months after the bombing of Pearl Harbor in Hawaii, which brought the United States into a seemingly reluctant war for them, and also 1 month after the Battle of the Coral Sea, in which Japan essentially beat the U.S. The U.S. decided to launch a strategic chain of attacks against the Japanese Empire, and it went from the Battle of the Coral Sea was kind of the proto start to this launch against the Japanese Empire, but it really culminated at the Battle of Midway all the way to the end of the war, resulting with Saipan, Iwo Jima, and eventually the atomic bombings of the Japanese mainland, which brought on the surrender by the Emperor of Japan. So here we just see some pictures of the actual atoll of Roi Namur during the Battle of Midway. These are Marines on the island. So here we can kind of see, just as I was talking about, the obviously you could see Hawaii on the far right there, and then Midway Island just past that. And then all the way to the left here, you could see the Japanese occupied South Pacific. So in order for the United States to be able to gain launching attacks on the Asian mainland, more specifically the Philippines and Japan and occupied Korea, the United States needed to control key islands such as Iwo Jima eventually, and the Marshall Islands, in which they could set up bases and begin island hopping to overturn the occupation by Japan, in which they could set up bases as seemingly a safety net that they could launch attacks to the mainland with. So to compare this could be as if Japan was trying to take over Hawaii so they could attack California without having to have ships off the coast of California. That would be a more a seemingly allegorical approach to what the United States wished to do here in 1942 into 1943, because these things don't happen overnight. So during the Battle of Midway, obviously this was a marine-based, marine as in water-based, a water-based fight. So we can see here that with that, there's aircraft carriers, destroyers, and lots of airplane activity, meaning dogfights in the air. And with that, planes go down, and there's essentially a lot of carnage that go into the ocean, which these are not buoyant objects. They sink, and yes, so that's essentially what happened around the Roi Namur Atoll off the coast during the Battle of Midway, and essentially for a pretty large portion of the United States strategic approach to overturning the Japanese occupation of the South Pacific. So the purpose of this research and the survey and mapping is essentially, as I had just said, is to survey and map the 1 mile into the ocean off the coast of Roi Namur, the atoll. I would like to survey and map that section of water, which comes out to about 22 square miles worth of ocean or seafloor, and map where these aircraft lie. The water depth does not go over 150 feet, which is very accessible for scuba divers or water penetrating sonar. So going off of this sonar, we have the Echo Pilot 3D bronze, which isn't military grade, but it's also not recreational grade that Alaskans would use for ice fishing. It's more of a professional fisherman sonar imaging system that many commercial guys, such as on Discovery Channel, the guys on the show Wicked Tuna, they use 3D bronze. So what this does, it'll give you a clear image for the ocean floor in which you are traveling, which is technology that has come so far, even within the last 10 years. And with this, we are able to gain that picture, put the coordinates for objects on a map within the database on the boat, on the GPS, and we can go throughout that 22 square mile radius or circumference of the atoll and map out planes. One of the most important things with this, though, is that only this 3D sonar imaging will not show an image of an airplane down there. It'll only show a large mass on the sea floor and give you essentially the depth and its position in terms of your boat. So I've decided that anything that registers over 5 meters by 5 meters, which is it's essentially a small fighter airplane, most notably a P-51 Mustang, which was used in the Battle of Midway. If an object, as we're going over, meets those size requirements, that is when the divers will go down, check it out, take pictures, take all the documentation as referred to in the grant proposal, and go from there in terms of stating its coordinates on the GPS. So here we have the approach to the survey. I just described that in slight detail, but as you can see here, on Roi and Namur are technically two separate atolls. But that depends on the time of the year. During the summer, it is essentially one atoll because of the way the ocean tides work during the summer months in this part of the world, the South Pacific. So, and then in the rainy season, the waters will go up in this region, and then it will become two separate atolls. Looking on here, you can see a line around this that shows 1 mile off the coast. And within this region here, this is actually this was a map that the United States military, after their capture of Roi Namur, when they figured out what the Japanese defenses were on this atoll, they created a map, and the atoll has not changed at all, so this is still very relevant, though on paper it is considered dated. But on this map here, we have a line, and that's the 1 mile. So within this zone, this is where the mapping will take place. Specifically here, if we look on the left side, this will be the western side of the atoll. We can see that there is a large airfield. It is within my theory that this region off the coast of the western atoll of Roi, we can expect to see more airplane crashes, because many times planes are they're shot in the air, and the pilots are barely able to get them back to their airfield, and sometimes they fall short into the water because of mechanical failure. So this is where we will start, and for 2 weeks until the square mileage is mapped in a 3D space, and we will go from there. And that is essentially the mapping and survey of submerged aircraft surrounding the Roi and Namur atolls in the South Pacific. Thank you.